Hello everyone and welcome to today's video on rigging your characters in Blender so you can use them in your game engine. This episode we're going over two ways, a free method as well as a paid for method. These are the methods I recommend if you don't have software like Character Creator or anything like that, which does rigging for you. These are the best methods I find that you can use for your own games. So as you can see, I've opened up Blender here and we've got the default Unreal Engine SK Mani. You can see it's got no vertex groups, no armature, nothing to actually show that he's been rigged. He is just currently a model. So what we want to do first is we're going to come to Edit, Preferences, and we want to look in this add-on screen and we want to look for Rigify. So it should be off by default unless you already got it on, but if you do have it on, great, then we've got this Rigify option. This is the free option, right? So all we want to do is we're going to come over here in your viewport, click Add, go Armature, go Rigify, Meta Rigs, and click Human, right? So you've got these other ones as well, animals, which you can use. I've never really used them, but I'm pretty sure that could be really helpful if you need like animated birds in your game or whatever. And then the basics versions of these rigs, which don't come with like finger bones as well as facial rigs, but we don't really need to focus on that right now. I'm just going to use the standard human rig. So click on that and you'll see we get this rig that pops up. Now, just to make this a bit easier, we're going to come over to the viewport display here on the bones. We'll go viewport display. That's not right. Sorry, objects. Yeah, sorry, your object properties, and come to viewport display and click in front. That way our rig will always be in front of our model no matter how we rotate and move around. So come back over to front view and we're just going to scale this rig to match sort of the size of our model. So I'm going to say about there is good. And this is very important for the generating of the rig. Once you've scaled it to the size you want, press Ctrl A and apply the scale of the rig. That way when we generate the rig, it will go to the correct placement. Now obviously you can see our rig doesn't follow along with the body's shape. So let's go ahead and move these bones to be in the correct place. So come over to edit mode and make sure that you check on the X symmetry here. So what we do on one side will affect the other. So I'm just going to focus on the left side of the body, right side of the screen. And what you'll see is when we move one, it will move the rest. So let's start off with the feet. So I'm just going to drag everything here, press G, press X to move it on the X, and then just move each bone into position to where I think is a good spot. So about there. And very crucial, you want to turn to the side profile and then see where your bones are. So you can see that these aren't exactly lined up where I want. And we want to make sure that this goes to where the bend in the foot is, like so, and to the ankle. And this is the roll bone. This is where your foot will roll from. So move this right to the back. And then also just make sure that the roll bone is about the size of your foot, just so that we get correct rolling. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the legs and how we can move on to the arms. So I'm going to start with the clavicle here. So just think about where this is on your own body. You can feel for your clavicle. Just move this to where you think is the right spot and move this down to about there, right? That's just to deal with lifting the shoulders around the neck area, right? So next we're going to come to the shoulder and just move that to the correct spot. And same with here, the elbow, and then the hand. So we're going to move the hand to about there. And if we're happy with that, you want this to be as accurate as possible. So I'm doing this very quickly, but you want to make sure that your bones are placed exactly where you want them to be so that you have a better rig. So now if you come to the side, you'll see we've got this problem. So just again, do the same thing, choose an angle, move it, make sure that you've got everything in the right spot. So what you'll see is if I select just this, this is fine. But okay, I'll show you what I mean now. So now we need to move everything here. So click all of this and we can rotate it, or we can just move it. Yeah, let's rotate it on the Z and then move it in again. Just make sure that you're within the actual mesh of your character. So that's fine. I actually want this to be about there. Okay. Great. So now we want to actually move the fingers. Let's actually not do that. So now that we're here, we're going to have to move the fingers into the correct positions, right? So I'm just going to move this again just to get directly in the middle. And the easiest and best way, or like the simplest way for me, is to turn on snapping and just go to volume, right? So what this will do, maybe let's go center just to check. So what this will do is when we select a bone end like this and remove it, pressing G, you'll see it will snap to sort of the center of the mesh. So we can do that for all of these, like so. And now if we rotate, you can see that the bone is sort of in the center. So this is a hand bone. These can usually sit in the middle. Don't need to worry about that much too much. So let's move it up there. But these are your joints. So this is actually where it will bend from. So make sure that these are lined up with the actual joints of your model. So like this, like that. Okay. And then just do the same for the fingers. So I'm just going to fast forward this section and just make sure that these are accurate. Oh wait, let me show you this before. So like I said, these are hand bones, so these can stay generally in the middle of the hand, but you'll see when we come here and I move this, you see it doesn't move the whole finger. Now the way Rigify works is that needs to move together with that, otherwise you're going to get generative errors when you're creating the rig. So easiest way to do is just box select over that section and then you can move it like so. Those are just on the hand to joint bones. The rest are just singular bones. But it is very important that you keep that like that, right? And just make sure that these are all in the right place and that you're selecting all the correct bones. So you can move the hand bone there. This hand bone can go there. Box select. Okay, so I'm going to finish this off and then I will be back once this is done and I can show you the next part of the rig. So. Okay, now that we're done with this, we can turn off the snapping. Make sure to save often. You never know, something crashes or something breaks or something happens that you don't like. We can make copies as well, but this is just for the tutorial, so it's fine if I just leave it like this. Now this is a facial rig. If you want to, you can rig these to your character. It will obviously move much nicer with the facial animations, which will all be bone controlled rather than blend shapes. So, but for this character, it doesn't have any facial stuff, so I'm just going to show you how to delete this correctly so that we don't get any unnecessary rigging, right? So all we want to do is go from the side view and just box select everything on the face, excluding this bone, and then just do the same with the ears, like so, and then press X and press bones, right? Now you'll see that that looks like all the facial bones, but there is actually one more which is hidden in the head bone. So Alt click on this bone here and you'll get a menu that says spine, face, and spine. You want to select the face bone, which you can see is well hidden in there, and just press X and delete. So now you've got your whole rig. So these are lined up with the character's chest or female character's nipples, just to make sure that the chest bends correctly. So just move those into a position and happy to. So if you need to, you can move your head rig around, such like that, but just make sure that all your bones are in the correct place. These are a bit too high for me, so about there. And that should be good enough for now. So you can see there's a bit of a problem here. So I'm just gonna move these. Oops. Just take the time, really take the time to build up your rig correctly, so you'll have less headaches in the future, right? Okay, so let's say I'm happy with this, and now that we've all got this all good, go back to object mode and just make sure that you've got your scale all set to 1:1 here. If not, just press Control A, oops, and press scale, and then it'll be good, right? So all we want to do now is with the bone selected, we're going to come over to the object data properties, which is this little like stick man with his arm up. And under Rigify, you'll see there's this generate rig. For now, you don't need to worry about all this other stuff. These are just like settings for the rig, so you can see what your RK colors will be, your FK colors and so forth. You don't really need to mess around with any of this. Just click generate rig. And now you'll see that there's this rig that's been pushed around your whole character, which are all these like little control boxes. And you can see they're all around, okay? So now we're technically done with this. So I'm just going to save again. And now what we want to do is we want to hide this meta rig. So just come over to the top right here and hide that, right? So now you can see this is the rig. But if we move it around, so if I select the rig and go pose, our character doesn't move with it. Like so. Which is a problem. So go back to object mode and you want to go select your body. And if your character is made up of multiple meshes, you want to select all the meshes. But crucially, you need to make sure that your rig is selected last. So I'm just going to shift click on it. And now you should have something that looks like this. So I'm going to press Control P and go amateur deform with automatic weights, right? And click on that. It's going to take a while to calculate everything. And now that that's done, we can save again. Okay, now we can simply test it, right? And see how well this works. So all we're going to do is select our rig, come over to pose mode, and now we can grab something like this foot and we can move it around, and you can see our character is moving really well. And then we can go this side, do the same. We can come over to the hand and do the same here. As well, if these rigs are a bit hard to see, again, go to viewport display and select in front, and then you can see all of the stuff that you get to handle with. Yeah. So now that your character is well rigged, you can see how we can move them around and everything's perfect, right? So what you want to do then is just make sure that your character's rigs are, well, like movement is all fine. You'll see with this mesh, the parts aren't welded together. So you'll see we've got like the interior there, which is fine. Just make sure your models are probably sealed, or that you have like intersecting models so that you don't get to see the interior on purpose. So if I go over to oh, we don't have it anymore. Okay, so in this bone collections on the right side here, just gonna make this a bit bigger. These are all the facial rigs and everything, right? So this is like, let's say fingers. You can see there's the finger controls being hidden and everything, right? So if we had a problem, we could literally just hide all of these, and then you can see our rig is completely hidden, right? So when we want to work on something, we can just select one. And this is more for like if you wanted to weight paint. So if I come over to here, this DF, which is your deform bones. If we turn that on, you get to see all the bones influencing the body, right? So let's say I wasn't happy with the weight painting around the arm here, right? So what I do is go to object mode, select that, add my rig, and go over to, oops, sorry, maybe it's the rig and then the body. Yeah. And go over to weight paint. And then we can go ahead and check what each sec bone is doing. So I think it's alt right click, alt left click. Yeah, alt left click. And then you can see the weight of each bone according to each section. So if I was to click here, you can see there's a bit of influence. Blue meaning cold, meaning the least amount of influence, to red being the most amount of influence. So let's say if I select there, you can see. And that's how it would go about the body. So if I wasn't happy, I'd just go in here. So we can find my weight painting tools. Oh, we're already on weight painting tools. Okay. So here's all your options there. Weight 1 will make things red with a gradient around it, which we don't want. So you can then obviously change how your brush stroke is. The blur will help with like smoothing out some bits. Average will take the average of the surrounding area and add it there, so it's again like a smooth. Smear does a smear, you sort of push your weights out and so forth. And once you're happy with this, just go out of weight painting mode, and then you can hide your deform bones again and turn on all the rest. And you really want to take the time to sort that out, because it's gonna affect how your character moves inside the engine. So if I'm happy with this, yeah, like it, ideally I would weight paint some of this body here to move along with this, but this is just a sample. But I showed you how to weight paint, so you just go into the body, go out of here, go here, weight painting. Just make sure you got your deform bones on. Hide the rest here. That, sorry, bones, and body, weight painting, and just make sure that you go in and it's say for here, this one, go in with a paintbrush and say the weight is down to like 0.1, and then we can come in here, or we can blur a bit. No, that's not gonna work. Average, yeah, maybe something like that, but make sure your brush strength, your brush size is really low. Then you can come in and paint around here, or you can go in and say the weight painting is about there. We can just go in. So now this is just very quick and very dirty. You want to actually take the time to spend doing all of this, but if you do this properly, your character will bend really nicely and animate really nicely without needing to redo your work later down the line. So do a good job once, and you should be set for the rest of the time. So this is, I don't like rigging in general. I find it very boring, and I'm not very good at it. But tools like this make it much easier. So now, let's say I'm happy with that. We can go out here and blur this a bit. Maybe increase the brush size a bit. Make it a bit easier. So let's assume I am happy with this now. I can go back to object mode. Go over here, turn all my stuff back on. What do I do here? Turn that off, okay. I like that, okay. Okay, cool. So now I can go here, say we'll get into pose mode. Now I can move this arm again, and you can see it's moving along with it. And you just want to make sure that all of this works nicely together, and you keep going back and forth, iterating. There's quite a bit to inverse kinematics, IKs and FKs. So this is just how your characters move. So for example, the red is IK, which is inverse kinematics, which means the end moves the rest of the body, whereas forward kinematics, which would be like this arm, I'd need to put this all to 100, I think. Yeah. So then the start moves the arm instead, or the bones from there downwards, right? So that's basically the soft essentials of IK versus FK. I like IK in general, but FK is very useful if you know what you're doing, right? And then you can go in and start animating your characters, which will come at a later time. I'll show you how to do that, right? Now our model is our rig is technically done. We can now export this. So file export, FBX, and make sure that when you do this, you select armature and mesh, selected objects. Make sure that your geometry smoothing is on faces, your armature and animations are all good. Uncheck add leaf bones. Those are just additional bones to the end of your bones. And then you can export it where you want. But there is a problem that's worth noting, especially if you're going to be using this rig in Unreal Engine, is this rig is very intensive and kind of hard to work with within Unreal. This is a sacrifice you just have to make, or you can build your own rigs. That's up to you. If you plan on just using this rig with your own animations, it will be much easier in Unreal. But if you're going to be retargeting animations that somebody else has created, or even Unreal ones, you might run into issues. So I'm just going to label this many Rigify, and we can export it, right? And once that's done, happy days. And our character is technically rigged. We can now animate it, and so forth. So there is two other options, which I recommend as well. Is there's an program called, or a plugin for Blender called UEFY, which is basically a plugin that will convert this rig into one that's specifically for Unreal Engine, and it will like make everything rotate correctly and nicely. It is paid for, unfortunately, but it will make your life a lot easier. So I recommend getting that if you're going to use the Rigify rig. Otherwise, we can use the option that I sometimes use, which is Auto Rig Pro, which is also a paid for plugin for Blender, but it is really, really good. Okay, so here we are with the empty SK mannequin again. All we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have Auto Rig Pro installed. So if I come over to my add-ons, you'll see I've got Auto Rig Pro installed with the latest version. And all we're going to do is open up our tool menu by pressing N on the keyboard, go over to ARP, select our body, go to Auto Rig Pro Smart, and go get selected objects. We want to rig the whole body, so click full body, click OK, and you'll see now we're in the screen. It doesn't look like much changed, but you'll see we've got some options here on our tool menu where we can rotate the character to see everything's working. And because we have that AR module installed, we're just going to go click markers, guess markers. If we were doing this manually, we'd go add neck, place it in the correct places, and it would go through each one to get these markers here. So we'll go add neck, add chin, add shoulders, add wrist, add hands, so forth until we get to this point. So I'm just going to go in here and move these markers to where I think best. That's all fine. And under the skin settings presets, we want to make sure it's UE5 mannequin, so that all of these bones are generated correctly for UE5. Now, if our character has fingers, we can make sure that this is checked for fingers and adjust the amount. If our character doesn't have fingers, or if we go in sort of old school PS1 where it's just like a hand, we can uncheck the fingers. But for now, I'm going to leave this fine and go guess fingers. And you'll see now we've generated all of these. So we can go in and change the spine count if you want. I'm going to leave it as default. Same with the neck. If we had a face, we'd add facial. So probably in the future, I will go through setting that up so that we can get a facial rig going. But I'm happy with this, so we're going to click go. And now if we rotate around, you can see all our bones are in the correct place. Everything's set up fine. So I'm just going to go back here. If we had, like, let's say breast on the character or a ponytail, we could go here and add extra bones. If our character, let's say, had another arm, like a fourth arm or a third arm, we could go in and add another arm and so forth. That's what these all extra limbs are for. Once we're all happy with that, we can click match rig, and you can see now we've got a rig. And we're pretty much in the same spot we were for Rigify. So if I come in here and press G, you can see our rig moves, but our character doesn't. So we're going to go over to object mode. We're going to select the body, select the rig, and go over to skinning. And what we can do here, just make sure that this setting says preserve volumes and everything else is turned off, like my same settings. We can either go with a heat map or voxelized. So this is all fine. We can leave everything default and we can go bind. It'll take some time. It won't look like anything's happening, but I assure you something is. Just give it a bit of time. Okay, so now that it's done, we can click go into our pose mode and we can move our character, and you can see it's now rigged correctly. We have all the same options as we did. And you can see we got a much nicer result compared to Rigify with much less effort. Great. Now that we're done with that, if we want to export our character and we're all happy, we can go back to export here. Make sure we check the rig. Check rig. These objects have an amateur modifier with preserve on. This should be disabled to set to the correct deformations. Okay, that's fine. Okay, everything there's fine. And now we can go export. Just want to make sure that everything's selected. Export, and now we can go many auto rig. We're gonna make sure that we're going to Unreal Engine on our exports. I'm gonna say this is humanoid. We're just gonna export this. Everything here is fine, and make sure it root motion is enabled because we want to add root motion. And we can now go and export. And they're happy. It's been exported, no errors. And now we can go into Unreal Engine and import our character. That is going to be it for this tutorial. Next tutorial, I'll show you how we can actually rig a character inside Unreal Engine and give it a control rig within the engine without needing to use something like Blender or these add-ons. It is just a much slower process, much more involved. These are just the two quick ways. So yeah, that'll be it for this video, and I'll see you in the next. Cheers.